Kim Kardashian West was at the White House just last week pleading for Johnson's release and prison reform. So this Johnson's commutation opened a door now for more nonviolent felons to be released from prison and possibly even start to re-enter our workforce. Here to discuss, Lawrence Jones, Campus Reform Editor-in-Chief, Lee Carter, GOP communication strategist and partner in Mylansky and Partners, Liz Peek of FoxNews.com columnist, and Ford O'Connell's with us, CivicForumPAC chairman, also a Washington Examiner contributor. Let me start with you, Ford. You know, I actually, last night, my market segment talked about Matthew Charles, another celebrated case that a lot of people would like to see a sentence or a pardon from the president. And I connected the dots to our workforce, particularly trucks. We're going to be 63,000 workers short. Do you sense something shifting here? And if so, do you think it's a good thing?
Well, I absolutely do, Charles. Now, here's the deal. There's a very big difference between prison reform and sentencing reform. Prison reform is about rehabilitating ex-cons so they can go back into the workforce and be positive members of society so that they don't actually wind up in jail and have a reason to move forward in society. I think that's a great thing. But there's also a debate about the sentencing reform, and we see a lot of younger folks across the country who want to see federal sentencing guidelines reduced, is what happened here with Alice Johnson. Look, I think conservatives should embrace this when it comes to nonviolent crime, because we need to get rid of mandatory federal minimums, because essentially not every crime's the same, and we need to put more power in the hands of judges.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000%. So the audience knows Alice Johnson, 1996, she went to prison. There was a 16-person drug ring. They were selling cocaine. She says she was just sort of an intermediary and never did anything big time, and she was lured into it after her son was killed. She went through a divorce, and her home was foreclosed, and she was a former worker for FedEx. So, you know, she's now saying that her life has been resurrected from the dead, and she's back, obviously, and happy about it. Lawrence, what do you make of this in terms of, does this establish some sort of new trend for you?
Yeah, this is amazing that the president was willing to put his political capital on the line and his office on the line to do something like that when it comes to not just this pardon, but all of the pardons. A lot of the times when presidents do the commuting or pardons, they wait till the latter years of their administration when they know they're getting ready to leave office. But this president is bold, just like in all of his policies that he likes to implement. I think this is something that the White House can do that is going to reach among Democrats, libertarians, and people that traditionally wouldn't agree with the president. Right. I would also offer this recommendation to the administration. It shouldn't just be when a celebrity or someone that is in the public eye or someone that has connection to a celebrity gets these commutations. I think the president should open it up where average day Americans can present their cases to him, and he can eventually, with his staff's help, of course, look at every case that comes to his desk and decide if he feels like he should commute those sentences.
In fact, earlier today, it was Kim Kardashian who called the family to break this news. Lee, I want to ask you, because both Ford and Lawrence brought up the political aspect of this with respect to the Republican Party. I spoke to a big-time Republican yesterday, someone with a tremendous resume. He was vehemently against this. Earlier this morning, there was a Republican running for office in California, with Stuart Varney, who bragged, who was against the idea that California has released felons, even nonviolent felons. And you know, I'm wondering if there is some sort of a disconnect, because when I do my own anecdotal polling and tweeting, I feel like a lot of Republicans think this is the right thing to do. Is the party missing something here, possibly?
Listen, I think a lot of people make this slippery slope argument, so to speak, that say if you do this, what's going to happen to the rest of the world? I think, frankly, though, most people look at this and say, you know what, it's the right thing to do. Our prisons are overcrowded. The whole point of putting people in prison is reform. We're not wanting people to go away forever.
So should the Republican Party embrace it more vocally?
Yes.
I think they should, because part of what the Republican Party really gets criticized about is not being humanitarian enough, not caring enough. And this is an issue that they could win on. Prison reform is something that is true to the Republican values. We do want to give people the tools they need to succeed, and that's what really this is all about. So letting people, you know, go back, be contributing members of society is exactly what they think that they should be doing and what people want to see them doing. And I think it's a really interesting timing-wise that he's making this announcement the same day that we've got an excess number of jobs for the claims. And that's to say we're going to have to find more workers, and this is a really good way to do it.
6.7 million job openings, 6.4 million workers, Liz. You know, last week we heard from the Beige Book report that more businesses are hiring nonviolent felons. From a business perspective, we know there are obviously pros and cons, but how do you feel about it?
Oh, I think it's absolutely essential. I mean, the market is incredibly tight for workers. I have a friend who has a factory down in the Philadelphia area, and he has basically dropped drug testing because so few people were passing and begun to hire felons because they're available and they will stick with a job. I mean, they're not likely to go and move on to another employer quite as quickly as maybe someone else. So, look, the bottom line here is there is no better rehabilitation than a good job. And this is the time to let this kind of thing happen. The president, through the tax cuts and deregulation, has created the strongest job market in decades. Let's take advantage of it. And I think this is doing that.
You know, Lawrence, I remember a few years ago when a felon that Governor Huckabee had pardoned committed a crime. In fact, I think he committed a murder. And I ran into Governor Huckabee in the hallways, and, you know, he obviously felt badly for it, but he still felt pretty strongly about the idea that people should have redemption. But there is a risk to all of this, isn't there?
There is a risk, but Charles, remember, we're talking about nonviolent offenses, and just to piggyback on what you said earlier about the Republican Party, a lot of Republicans were against it because there's this notion that if you release nonviolent offenders, that you're no longer tough on crime. We want to be tough on crime. We want to be tough on violent offenders, people that are a risk to our society, murderers, people that rape children, rape women. Those people need to be behind bars. But when it comes to drug offenses, this is a business network right now. It just doesn't make sense to continue to put people behind bars for low-level offenses and then spend all this money keeping them in prison. Meanwhile, we have jobs there where they can be rehabilitated, and they are loyal to those jobs because it's tough to get a job once you leave prison. So I think the president is being smart. He's a businessman. He understands the numbers of this, and I think this is something, like I said before, Charles, that he's going to be able to reach over to other parties like the Democratic Party for their support.
I think he will. I think President Trump will lure younger voters with this, independents for sure. And even for it, I think there are a lot of young Republican voters, libertarians, for instance, that probably will like this sort of move. And again, you know, for me, I'm just wondering if some of the older establishment types will see that.
I think they absolutely are. I think the older establishment types are misreading this. Look, the times have changed. Just like 1980 changed from 1968, we've changed from the time of the 90s where we considered everything to be a crime. Let me say this. There is a bill that just passed the House in terms of prison reform, which is helping ex-cons get jobs. And because we're going to need 60 votes in the United States Senate to pass it, I think one of the key battle lines is going to be getting rid of federal mandatory minimums in terms of nonviolent crimes. And I think if conservatives understand we're putting the power back in the hands of the judges, I think America will succeed going forward because judges at the end of the day are adherents to the law, and not every crime is the same. And you know what? Sometimes we got to take a risk.